of the hour now. Time for the tropical update. You know, if you think about the superlatives of super and perfect, they're rarely used when you talk about historic weather events. We've had the super outbreak, 2 of them now. The superstorm, we've had the perfect storm once, and I never thought in my life that I'd see, much less another super outbreak. We did, and I never thought I'd see another perfect storm, and it looks like that is something that is about to happen in 3 years, something that could be far worse simply because of the fact that it is going to move inland and affect millions and millions of people. All right, let's bring in Dr. Greg Postel and talk a little bit about what is going to happen with this thing. Greg, we've been talking tonight, and we've even seen hints of this from the Hurricane Center, how this storm is now already beginning to undergo this metamorphosis of tropical to nor'easter combo.
Yes, it's starting to show some signs that maybe that's ongoing. I mean, there's some winds aloft and some dry air and some influence from systems around it that are beginning to overspread Sandy right now. Let's look at the latest advisory from the Hurricane Center just to refresh everybody and show this is where we are right now. Latest advisory as of 8 o'clock Eastern Time. The winds are 100 miles per hour still, 965 on the pressure. That is pretty low. Normally we think of 965 associated with stronger winds. But what it's telling us is that that pressure is 965, it's low, but it's spread out over a large area. So it's really the change in the pressure that is related to the wind, not the actual minimum in pressure, but the change of the pressure. So we're seeing a very gradual change in pressure that's spread out over a large area. And it's moving north-northwest at 17 miles an hour, and that's effectively paralleling the Florida coast right now. So let's see what we have here on the radar image. And you can actually tell where the center of the circulation is. It's right about here, east of the Bahamas, and a lot of rain, though, is being thrown back now toward the west here across eastern Florida, Miami, and places up the coast a little ways, Fort Pierce even. They have, I looked at some observations in the last couple of hours, generally sustained winds of 15 to 25 miles an hour with higher gusts. But of course, you know, when some of these stronger showers moves through, earlier today, in fact, some of these locations along the Florida coast saw wind gusts up to 50 miles per hour. So highly variable winds, generally though 15 to 25, but when a heavy shower comes over, gusting way above that. And there's some reports of the latest winds right now. Miami International's northeast is 17, gusts to 28. Look at some of these wave heights though, 4 feet, 8 feet, and 14 feet there. So, you know, we're starting to see some of the effects, and you know, you can even see on the satellite image that maybe there's some dry air that's trying to come into the circulation here. So that is all part and parcel of this whole metamorphosis, Jim, that you're talking about, that we will continue to see over the next several days as Sandy moves off to the north.
All right, so let's talk a little bit about where, you know, timing. Florida tomorrow, Saturday, Sunday, mid-Atlantic region, and then northeast Monday to Tuesday, right? Yeah,
that's exactly right. I mean, here's the official cone from the Hurricane Center. Moving it parallel to the coast tonight, and then tomorrow during the day. Weaken it slowly, though, 90 miles per hour by tomorrow evening in about 24 hours. We'll see if it even is that strong at that time. But then it will begin to turn off toward the northeast there Saturday evening, 75 mile per hour Category 1, paralleling the coast. So here are the timing on some of the wind field measurements that we expect to be associated with this particular storm. This is the official forecast from the Hurricane Center. This area shaded in yellow is where the tropical storm sustained winds are, and they basically reach the coast. And here's the timing: midnight tomorrow night. That's about when the closest impact of the closest approach of these tropical storm force sustained winds will be, likely just offshore, and then the hurricane force gusts in shaded here in orange. And so that's the closest approach, I think, that the strongest winds will have about midnight tomorrow night to Florida. And then as we move the system northward, the winds expand considerably in all directions. And in fact, some of the tropical storm force sustained winds may even go onshore here into South Carolina and North Carolina. Again, we're seeing sort of this expansion of the winds. Now let's look at the timing in Florida specifically for tomorrow. Anywhere from Miami to West Palm to Cocoa Beach, expect wind gusts perhaps to 50 miles an hour out of the northeast or north-northeast, with the center of Sandy well offshore, perhaps 150 miles. Again, a lot of the rain showers probably a little further west than what this model is showing, maybe making it onshore, certainly halfway across the peninsula tomorrow, just based on some of the trends that we've seen today. We've seen the rain go all the way to the west coast. And then on Saturday, the winds weaken a little bit, but still gusting 35 all up and down the coast. In fact, the farther north you go, in particular Jacksonville on Saturday, wind gusts 45 to 50 miles per hour. Definitely not not out of the question with rain showers. So definitely a stormy day there. Now, Jim, this is what we were looking at last night, and this is something that we need to keep looking at, is what happens with these models, this divergence in the models. And I'll show you, and you can go through it and raise a point anytime here, because we're looking at two models right here, what they think is going to happen. In the blue is where the European model thinks Sandy's going to go, and the red where the GFS thinks it goes. And we'll move forward in time here. You can start to see some separation there.
Right, but the point, too, is they're a little bit closer together.
Yep. But
they're both a very deep, low-pressure system. So wherever that center point is, that inner circle, the small circle,
right in
which
here,
is where they indicate from the isobars, the deepest center of low pressure, out to the north and east of that is where we're going to have the biggest impacts on the ocean. So that means all the surge, all the wave setup gets rolling into, let's say, with the first scenario, the European Ocean City, you've got the whole Jersey Shore, you've got Long Island Sound, you've got New York Harbor. It will be higher than Irene, okay? With the model pressure and the size is what it's going to be when it eventually makes landfall. At that point, if that's the point, it will be a worse setup than Irene, period. Now, if the storm comes over New York City, it'll probably be very similar. But we'll still have that water, all that water pushing up into New York Harbor, all that water pushing up into Narragansett, Buzzards Bay, the Cape. So there will be wave action, there will be surge. Really, both scenarios indicate a much worse scenario than what Irene painted for New York City. So I want people to put that into context from what we know right now. Certainly the models could still change, but given the information that we have right now, Dr. Postel, this is what we see. And then inland, major disruptions in transportation and commerce, both on the ground and in the air.
Yeah.
And there's, at least through the day on Monday, right?
Yeah, you're absolutely right. You know, and your comparison with Irene is exact, because what we're seeing here is a system that's really coming abruptly onshore, and it's not only that, the trajectory of it, but also the nature of it.
Right.
It's a lot different beast we're dealing with here, and you know, we're starting to see more and more agreement with the models that it is indeed going to take that left turn, very likely late on Saturday. Each one of these lines represents a forecast, a different forecast of where it thinks the center of Sandy is going to go. Here it is right here. When these lines are close together, that means all the forecasts are pretty much in agreement, so that we have a high confidence that it's going to move roughly parallel to the coast for the next day, day and a half. And then we start to see, this is the separation that you were talking about, Jim, but this is really important because we're starting to see less of a separation as we head towards early next week. Just to give you a timeline, this is early next week. We're seeing a lot more clustering in this area, and this is what makes, I think, everybody nervous, is we're starting to see more models go into this region right in here along that trajectory.
Yeah, and I think it's important to note, too, especially with this southern track, there is a lot more leaf canopy still on the trees. All right, so that's going to act like little parachutes and grab the wind. So I think the wind damage potential, the farther south of a landfall, if you want to call it that, is going to be higher. So, you know, everybody certainly has a chance at power outages and tree damage here, okay? We don't want to take that away. But I think that the deeper the leaf canopy is, would be more, if you will, into Virginia, into Maryland, into northern North Carolina, even West Virginia and southern Pennsylvania. That's where many of these trees are still very, very well leafed, as I witnessed last year when I was in Harrisburg, Pennsylvania for Snowtober. So Greg Postel, 2 years in a row here, the potential for millions to be in the